So I got early access to Sandrone, and at the same time, I also finished rewatching Fullmetal Alchemist, which states, "You cannot gain anything without first giving something in return." For example, we lost Polonia, but in exchange, we got this mecha lady with serious assets, and she also shoots super powerful beams. But Sandrone also lost her long skirt, although in exchange, she's giving a new greater purpose to some really random characters like Chi-Chi. Okay, I don't know where I'm going with this. Look, with the time I got to spend with this angry puppet girl, it's clear that she has some really impressive potential, especially considering she's only giving us a taste of what the new Stellar-Conduct reaction is capable of. Now, that doesn't mean there are no drawbacks when it comes to this Harbinger, but she is definitely shaking things up, even if it means right now she relies a little too much on certain units. Long story short, Sandrone's situation is complicated, but in this Constellation Zero showcase video, I am gonna reveal to you everything you need to know about this new stellar damage dealer, including many team comps and loadouts I've tested, so that you can decide for yourself if she's worth pulling for. Alright, to start off, for the most part of the video, Sandrone will be using Tidal Shadow, although I will showcase her with other weapons too, and in general, you can see some of the weapon comparisons here and how much they improve her overall DPS. Signature is basically about 27 to 30% better than Tidal Shadow, so it does offer a chunky upgrade for her, but I'll talk about this more in her team section. Now, she's also equipped with the Disenchantment and Deep Shadow artifact set. This is the best in slot option for her, nothing else even comes close. And as you can see, she has Attack Sans, Attack Goblet, and Critical Damage Circlet. Finally, her talents are all raised to level 10, and she's Constellation Zero. Oh, and footage shown here is from Creator Experience server, so final content is subject to change. Anyway, so what's so special about Sandrone? Well, just like Unefa when she was released before Notcry, Sandrone offers a taste for the upcoming stellar reactions from the Snezhnaya region by introducing Stellar-Conduct Reaction. And I'll be honest, this 7th Harbinger badly needs this new reaction to function as a strong DPS. Believe me, I tried my best using Sandrone in meld teams where she couldn't even single cycle Asimov, although the situation was a little better when she was utilized in the freeze team, but even then, she desperately wants to play with the new Stellar-Conduct reaction since, even with random supports, and I'm talking about some really questionable teammates, she can output serious damage, which is like 2 or 3 times better performance than using her in any other team archetype like Melt or Freeze. So let's take a closer look at the new Stellar-Conduct reaction she enables. Basically, thanks to her passive talent, whenever anybody in the team causes Superconduct, it instead becomes Stellar-Conduct, which will in result create a Polestar field. And inside this field, a couple of things happen. First, it will by default boost the team's Electro and Cryo damage by 20% by just standing inside it. However, when hitting enemies inside this field with Electro and Cryo applications, every 4 seconds, this Polestar field records how many applications happen and grant that many stacks for the next 4 seconds, which will then check again and reset the counter to the amount of hits dealt within last 4 seconds. So it's like a constant cycle of checking how much Cryo and Electro gets applied every 4 seconds, and then that many stacks are generated. But the big question is, what do these stacks even provide? Well, each stack improves Cryo, Electro, and Stellar-Conduct damage. By default, Stellar-Conduct damage has base multiplier of 1, but even just after 1 stack, it shoots up to 1.45 times, and can go up to literally 2 times multiplier at 12 stacks, which by the way is the maximum amount of stacks possible. But yeah, you can see here the bonuses you gain from the stacks, and notice how each stack also gives 1% extra Electro and Cryo damage. In fact, you can even check it in the menu directly. However, just like for Stellar-Conduct damage multiplier, the first stack grants a big jump from base 20% to 29%. Now, I'm gonna be honest, it's been quite the gruesome experience when it comes to figuring out how this stack generation actually works. There's a lot of unclear data about it, and I'm just a single content creator, so best to wait when more people in community can test it. But long story short, in most Sandrone teams, I could maintain roughly between 5 to 9 stacks quite easily, but going up from 10 to 12 stacks usually boils down to lucky timing, or you need to do it inefficiently. Like to obtain 12 stacks, you'd have to do this kind of stupid shenanigans shown here to achieve it, and normally I wouldn't do that in endgame content. But yeah, the other thing Stellar-Conduct does is enable special abilities for characters which have Radiance Stellar-Conduct in their kit, but it only becomes active inside the Polestar field. This is important because, if you aren't aware, Chi-Chi, Mizuki, Miko, Wriothesley, Sino, Beidou, and Diona are all getting buffed. Some of the buffs are just changes to their kit, but a lot of their newfound powers come from this Radiance Stellar-Conduct, meaning, in order to make them strong, you will need to utilize this new reaction. I'll be releasing a separate video very soon about these changes, but I will mention some crucial new abilities in this video as well, since they benefit Sandrone. Oh, and yeah, while this doesn't really matter, Stellar-Conduct, just like Superconduct, also reduces enemies' physical resistance. Hoyo, please make physical viable again. It's been 5 years now. How much more pain can Eula take? Anyway, lastly, just like with Lunar Talents before, Sandrone can improve base Stellar-Conduct damage by up to 14%, or when she has 2000 attack. This is so trivial to achieve, so she will always improve Stellar-Conduct damage by 14%. On top of that, she also has another passive talent, which basically provides her with 160 elemental mastery when she has 2000 attack. Again, super easy to achieve with any Sandrone build. But you might be wondering, where is Stellar-Conduct damage located? I mean, the reaction itself doesn't deal damage, it just boosts Stellar-Conduct damage as well as cryo and electro damage. So this means characters themselves need to deal this special type of damage, right? Yep, that would be the case. So let me introduce you to the main way how Sandrone deals damage. The normal attack talent. Although her actual normal attacks are terrible, don't bother using them. It's the charge attack that matters. You see, when you hold down the attack button, Sandrone summons her new robot servant Fagio, who will unleash tiny bullet attacks, each dealing, well, small amount of damage. However, every few seconds, Fagio also shoots a big beam. Normally without Stellar-Conduct reaction present, all this damage is considered just plain old boring cryo damage. But when inside the Polestar field, now Fagio's beam deals Stellar-Conduct damage, and it hits for quite a bit of damage. I am talking about 100k damage from each beam when Sandrone has few buffs, to upwards of 150k damage with a lot more buffs. And that's when she's using Tidal Shadow, but the damage can easily go up to 200k with her signature. And if you're curious, this Stellar-Conduct damage she unleashes functions in a very similar manner compared to lunar damage. The most important takeaway is that Stellar-Conduct damage ignores enemies' defense, does not scale with elemental or bonus damage, and can also critical strike. Plus, attack and EM stats both help this damage scale. So that's why Sandrone doesn't want to use cryo damage goblet. It's all about attack, baby. Oh, and it has hidden multiplier, which is based on those stacks I've mentioned from Stellar-Conduct. So in other words, this stellar damage stuff is nearly identical to lunar damage we've been dealing with in Nodicry. Still, there's a bunch of mumbo-jumbo word salad how this charge attack works, but essentially, after the third beam attack, Sandrone's charge attack overheats, as you can see here. And you need to use her skill to reduce the heat to 0, which the game calls it decoding power. If you don't, the charge attack will just slowly shoot these small bullets, which deal crappy damage. I mean, this decoding power can also naturally cool down, but it's not worth waiting around since you can literally just keep holding attack button and press the skill, and she almost immediately resumes with regular charge attack again. In other words, the moment the third beam attack happens, just tap the skill because it resets the decoding power to 0, which is a fancy way of saying you can now spam her charge attack until the third beam again. Now, I know what you're thinking. Can this Harbinger spin to win? Unfortunately, no. Only Neuvillette is allowed to do that, at least on the bright side. Just like Nuvi's laser, this charge attack also pierces enemies and has a pretty long range, so Sandrone in AoE situations is going to be superb. And yet, maybe it's just me, but I find it a little sad Fagio is now Sandrone's servant doing her bidding with charge attacks. I know what happened to Polonia, well, happened, but I wish she could restore the big, burly, beautiful specimen that Polonia is. Anyway, let's talk about the skill a little more. It's quite unique actually because the skill itself has an extremely short 4-second cooldown, which is exactly the amount of time you spend with charge attack until it overheats. And when the skill is tapped, Sandrone shoots out 2 prism shots, but the second shot deals Stellar-Conduct damage if Polestar field is active. And it deals almost exactly the same amount of damage as one of the beam shots, and it's all thanks to her first passive talent. There's a lot of text here, but in layman's terms, when decoding power has at least 50 points, meaning her charge attack is halfway to overheating, the next skill tap's second prism shot will deal 4 times bigger Stellar-Conduct damage. But I mean, come on. you'll always trigger this passive. Hence why when we increase the original multiplier by 4 times, it comes out nearly identical to one beam shot. So yeah, the skill is just a glorified reload button for the charge attack, but it also dishes out nice damage and, funnily enough, always creates one cryo particle. By the way, outside combat, you can use the skill to hover in the air, and pressing the dash button moves her lazy body even faster. She cannot ascend or descend, but it's useful to cross big gaps. Finally, this brings us to the burst. Sandrone gently taps a big cog and then delivers 3 cryo hits followed by 1 additional final hit, which deals either cryo damage, or if Polestar Field is present, then it becomes Stellar-Conduct type and it explodes for a ton of damage. I am talking about roughly 500,000 damage, even with Tidal Shadow or Mailed Flower. Now, this damage I've shown also got boosted by the first passive talent, in a similar manner how the skill's Stellar-Conduct hit is boosted. You see, the second part of this passive states that for every 10 points of decoding power lost after using the skill, she gains 1 stack of an additional 10% multiplier for the burst's final hit. Frankly, this will happen after every skill tap, since you want to use it right after the 3rd beam, which is also the moment when decoding power becomes 100, or overheats. So yeah, even after the first charge attack and skill tap, you can deliver a fully powered burst. All in all, the burst is really good, and thanks to some newfound powers with a certain little undead gremlin, it becomes a piece of cake to fire off the burst each time, and I'll talk about this more in a moment. Okay, so this brings us to an example rotation, and it's really simple. After setting up all the buffs and debuffs with the teammates, use her charge attack and skill combo 3 to 4 times in a row. Usually by the end of the 3rd charge attack, most of the buffs will have expired, so I just like to start repeating the whole team's rotation after 3rd charge attack, which, by the way, still delivers 3 beams each time. So in total, that's 9 beams, 3 skills, and 1 burst that you should use whenever possible, leading to a total of 12 Stellar-Conduct hits, and even with a free-to-play team like this one, she already reaches 1.6 million damage, even after just 2 charge attacks and skill combos. So this can easily increase to over 2 million damage. Granted, this team is literally just hyper-buffing Sandrone, nobody else is contributing good damage. Alright, I think that's all Sandrone does. Well, besides her last passive talent, where she can invite other characters over for tea time. But instead of drinking tea, let's soak in the teams section next. So, we already know that Sandrone is only really good in one team archetype, but there's a lot of variety when it comes to building her Stellar-Conduct teams. Now, any team you go for, the archetype must include an electro unit to enable Stellar-Conduct, and then another cryo unit, usually there to help out with particle generation. The last slot can be quite flexible, and often it can be just another electro or cryo unit. Still, currently, there is no specific best team because, let's be honest, it's only a matter of time before Hoyo releases a dedicated Stellar-Conduct support. However, at least as of now, Miko, Chi-Chi, and then either Beto or Diona or Nicole works as a really good team. Hang on, did I just say Chi-Chi? In the big year of 2026? Yep, Chi-Chi is actually one of the best supports for Sandrone because essentially the buffs she received cuts down her long skill cooldown by 15 seconds, the skill itself provides 50% Stellar-Conduct damage boost, and even does a coordinated attack every 2.2 seconds. But the craziest part? Chi-Chi finally produces particles. Every time the skill hits, 2 particles come out, and this can happen every 6 seconds. Plus, those of you who have C6 Chi-Chi, she super boosts the next 4 Stellar-Conduct attacks, essentially acting as a mini Shenhe for Stellar-Conduct. I'm telling you guys, we are living in crazy times when Chi-Chi is leading the Stellar teams. But yeah, the comp you just witnessed was with Chi-Chi, Miko, and Diona. I like this team because Diona provides shields, and she also gained a couple of new buffs as well, such as her skill unleashing additional coordinated attacks, and at C6, she further boosts Stellar-Conduct damage for on-field unit by 40%. But I would say without C6, Diona isn't that great since she's not buffing Stellar-Conduct damage by too much. Now, some of you might be wondering, just how good is Miko for Sandrone? Well, compared to any other option, on average, Miko is improving the team's damage by 20 to 30%. But keep in mind, this is super early conclusion. There's so much stuff we still need to find out, but for the moment, it is pretty clear Miko is the superior option over any other electro unit. And that's because Miko herself actually contributes quite a bit to the team's overall damage, since now when Polestar Field is present, her totems can deal Stellar-Conduct damage. In fact, the color of the numbers is slightly different compared to Sandrone's Stellar-Conduct. Well, that's because Sandrone's Stellar-Conduct is technically considered to be Cryo, while Miko's will be Electro. So while all Stellar-Conduct buffs apply to both of them, resistance reduction of Cryo and Electro can separately boost this Stellar-Conduct damage. But yeah, as you can see, Yai's totems can now hit for quite a bit of damage, and it happens frequently enough that seeing 60 or 80 or even sometimes 100,000 damage will be the new norm. Not only that, but Miko's first constellation further boosts Stellar-Conduct damage for the whole team by 50%, so both her and Sandrone can enjoy this buff together. Best part? You can obtain her first constellation for free by doing the Stella Fortuna activity. Oh, and did I mention her totems now remain on the field for 10 seconds longer? Yeah, Yai has finally won. Obviously, you still first need to pull for Miko, and so if you don't have her, then this means we gotta look at some other alternatives for Yai-less accounts. I'll be honest, so far it seems like the only other decent option would be VIII because she provides shielding, which Sandrone definitely appreciates because she doesn't have good resistance to interruption, and on top of that, VIII also got buffed. Basically, her skill is easier to use and can produce extra energy, while her C6 additionally shreds 15% cryo resistance, which of course benefits Sandrone's Stellar-Conduct damage. Plus, on-field unit also gains 200 elemental mastery, yet another boost to this damage type. But to make VIII work, I did equip her with Favonia's Greatsword and gave her Noblesse set and maxed out energy recharge as much as possible because she still needs to make sure to get that burst ready every rotation. Otherwise, you could also use Fischl or Raiden for Electro application, but you know, they won't be contributing much to anything else. Now, I also recorded this team made up of Escoffier, Nicole, and Miko. Nicole is pretty good here since her attack boost will be super valuable both for Sandrone and Miko, not to mention the thick shield, while Escoffier is mostly there to just apply cryo to help build stacks, and of course, she can reduce cryo resistance a little. This team is great because it's quite simple to play it, although I would try and catch Escoffier's particles with Sandrone, otherwise it's a bit harder to pull off her burst every rotation when Chi-Chi is not there to help out. You could also replace Nicole with Shilonen, since her resistance shredding will help boost both Yai's and Sandrone's damage. I also found this team with Yai, VIII, and Chi-Chi to be quite powerful, since VIII's burst shreds both Electro and Cryo resistance, plus she provides shield, and on top of Stellar-Conduct and EM boosting, this team can actually reach quite high damage output, so it is refreshing to see another old unit like VIII becoming valuable for the Puppet Girl. Lastly, if we go back to teams without Miko, this pure free-to-play comp consisting of Diona, VIII, and Sucrose is quite amazing, and the reason why I was able to show you previously some of those big numbers coming from Title Shadow. But if you want to, you can also replace Diona with Chi-Chi, or even use Benny instead of Sucrose for higher attack boosting. I mean, obviously this free-to-play comp isn't as amazing when compared to Miko variations, but it definitely can reach at least 100k DPS with almost no effort, and can keep going up higher with better artifacts and weapons. Ultimately, there's still a lot of details I haven't covered when it comes to the buffed units, and I will be releasing a separate video covering all the new changes for Wriothesley, Cyno, Mizuki, and the others I've discussed here as well. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press like on this video. Otherwise, as I said, Miko, Chi-Chi, and any other support you prefer from the ones I've showcased will be the best way to play Sandrone, at least for now. Keep in mind, Miko should be equipped with the same disenchantment artifact set that Sandrone has, in order for her to actually deliver good damage. So what do I think about this Mademoiselle Sandrone? Well, I'm not the biggest fan of Stellar-Conduct. It just seems like a new coat of paint on top of existing lunar reactions. On one hand, it's easier to explain it to you guys since there's a lot of similarities between lunar and stellar, but on the other hand, it's yet again locked behind a 5-star character. Now, granted, we did see in the trailer Traveler creating the Polestar field, so hopefully that's the case and there will be some kind of free-to-play option to experience stellar reactions. But the thing is, even at such an early stage, without any dedicated supports, Sandrone already feels pretty powerful. Obviously, it helps that a bunch of units got buffed, and most of their buffs have to do with the Stellar-Conduct reaction, so characters like Chi-Chi, Diona, VIII, Miko are literally there to elevate Sandrone's damage potential. Which is kinda crazy because I really like this idea of reviving characters who are no longer relevant in the meta, and give them a new purpose. I will say that I kind of felt like I always wanted to have a shielder on the team. It's almost like we're back to Novelette days, although unlike the Oratrice Mécanique d'Annelise Cardinal guy, Sandrone's resistance to interruption pretty much remains the same. There's no C1 helping her with that. Overall, Sandrone feels strong even now. She has her quirks when it comes to the playstyle, but the AoE potential is really good. You just shoot the beams, and any enemies caught in it cry out in pain. While at the same time, even if she only has one archetype, there's a bunch of ways you can approach team building, and you can even use really old characters who will be super useful for her, and that is always great. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, bye bye!